Hello and welcome back to part 3 of our look at the preference settings inside Photoshop Elements. In this video we'll look at the Saving Files panel. To start us off, we have our saving options at the top, giving us the ability to make changes to the way Elements saves the images that we're working on. The first option sets how Elements saves files, so we're asking how will Photoshop Elements respond when we first hit that save button. The default option is Ask if Original, and that means that when we hit the Save button, Elements is going to look and see if the image is already part of a version set within the organizer. If there's no version set and it's the first time you've pressed Save, then Elements will open the Save As dialog box and prompt you to save it with a new name as a new file and create a new version set, hopefully steering you away from saving over the original. However, if Elements finds a version set and the image you have open isn't the original file in that version set, then Elements will go ahead and save your changes to the file. So once again, it will only do that if it can work out that your file, the file that you're effectively saving over, isn't the original. The option above that is the one to choose if you're always wanting to be taken to the Save As dialog box when saving an image. So the first time you hit save, you will always get the Save As dialog box. Any time after that, you'll be able to just save the image as normal, because Elements is smart enough to know that you've previously saved the file out as a new image in the version set. And then finally, the last option, Save Over Current File, means that any time you hit the Save button, you will save the changes to the image you're working on. If you want to save out as a new file in the same version set, you can still hit Save As, but if you forget and just hit the Save button, you will overwrite the file. The default option is probably the best, especially if you're new to Elements, and then the only time I'd personally change it to Save Over Current File is when the other options aren't working for you. Maybe your workflow has the need to save the original files all the time or something like that. Alright, Image Previews ensures a thumbnail or specific previewing version of the image is saved along with the file. So when you view the image in Windows Explorer or the Mac alternative, you're getting a little thumbnail that visually represents the image. It's really good practice to leave this option as Always Save, but should you want to switch it off, you can choose Never Save, or if you want the option, then go ahead and select Ask when saving. The last file saving option is File Extension, which is the 3-character string following the name of the file that indicates the type of file you're working with. So the image I have open on screen is called Taxi, but the full name is actually taxi.jpg, and it's those 3 characters JPG that tells the operating system of the computer you're using what application to use in order to open up the file. Both Windows and PCs are capable of reading either upper or lowercase, so either is going to be fine, but if you do get a specific issue where you need to save to either upper or lowercase file extensions, then here's the place to do it. Alright, next up we have File Compatibility, and the first option is Prefer Adobe Camera Raw for supported RAW files, which is going to be applicable if you're using RAW files instead of JPEG or TIFF files. If you do and you want to take them out of Elements and into a third-party RAW editor, then you want to switch this option off. If however you want to integrate Elements with Adobe's own RAW editor, which just happens to be a free download on the Adobe website called Camera Raw, then turn this option on. My preference is to leave this on, and I'd recommend if you shoot RAW to do the same. Ignore Camera Data Exif Profiles allows you to turn off Elements' previously standard behavior of using the Exif data to supply a source color space for editing the image. This one's quite a technical subject, but basically if your camera doesn't tag the image with a color profile, it still sometimes records the color space as sRGB when it tags the file in the Exif metadata, and that's the message Elements gets when it opens the file. And if you don't want that behavior because you want to set up your own color profiles, or that it's just plain wrong for whatever reason, then go ahead and turn this option on. If you want Elements to use the Exif stipulated profile, then leave this option off. Colour profiles and colour modes are one of the most difficult subjects in photography and Elements to get your head around, so if you're not up to speed with how they work, then I'd suggest you leave this option and use the Exif information for the profiling. The next option allows us to increase the compatibility of the image when saving as a PSD with other Adobe applications such as Lightroom and Premiere, and also older versions of Photoshop Elements and the full version of Photoshop 2. Other applications can't see all of Photoshop's layers and editing capabilities, so by maximizing the PSD, we're effectively saving a flattened version of the file embedded inside the layered PSD. So if the other application has issues with any part of it, it can reference the flat file. Maximizing the compatibility of a PSD increases the file size, so my recommendation here is to switch it out to Ask. If you know you'll never need the functionality, then go ahead and switch it off, no problems with that. However, exercise caution if you're thinking of having this set to Always, as you don't want to be increasing the file size of every last file you create for no good reason. The final option allows us to set how many files can be open in the Open Recently Edited File menu, and that can be found up here inside the File menu itself. So by having it set to 10, we can access the last 10 files we edited inside Photoshop Elements from the Recent Files menu. And that's it for saving files. Next up, the most technical tab of them all, Performance. Thanks for joining me here at freephotoshop.com, and I'll see you in the next video.